Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Porter, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly webinar series where we cover a variety of topics that may be of interest to libraries. We broadcast the show live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, but if you're unable to join us on Wednesdays, that's fine. We do record the show as we are doing today, and it will be posted to our show archives for you to watch later at your convenience. And I'll show you at the end of today's show where you can access all of our show recordings. Both the live show and the recordings are free and open to anyone to watch, so please do share with your friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, anyone you think might be interested in any of the topics we have on NCompass Live. For those of you not from Nebraska, the Nebraska Library Commission is the state agency for libraries, so similar to your whatever state library. So we provide training and resources and consulting and databases and grants to all types of libraries in the state. So you will find shows on NCompass Live for all types of libraries, public, academic, K-12, corrections, museums, historical societies, et cetera, et cetera. Really, our only criteria, it has something to do with libraries. We have a Nebraska Library Commission staff sometimes come on to do presentations about programs and resources and things we offer through the commission, but we also bring in guest speakers from across the whole country. And that's what we have with us today. Joining us this morning is Erica Moses. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning.
And she is from my home state, New York. I am a Nebraska transplant, but from the Belmont Free Library. And this is a session that you did at the ARSL conference, correct? For Association for Rural and Small Libraries?
Correct.
That's where I saw that at, yes. And about homesteading at your library. So some very cool things that I think a lot of us could offer at our libraries and just have fun doing, I think. I like to do crafty and home cooking things, so. So I'll just hand it over to you, Erica, to tell us about what you've been doing at your library.
Okay. So when I presented this at ARSL, it was pretty interactive. So I don't know if I'll take up the full hour today, but I will do my best. Well, I just
encourage anybody who wants to, use that question section in your GoToWebinar interface and type in anything you want, and I will share that, and we will still have, we can have as much interaction as we can get that way. Absolutely.
Definitely. So I currently work in a New York library, but I actually live in Pennsylvania, in the little itty bitty town of Genesee. It's nowhere near Pittsburgh, nowhere near Philadelphia, nowhere near the Poconos. You probably haven't heard of it unless you're from the area, and that's okay. We are very, very small, very rural. The library that I started this programming in was in Pennsylvania. And I had a service area. My annual report says over 800. In actuality, we're sitting at about 650. I was a solo librarian for that library, so everything I'm going to show you today, I did myself, just me. We are also a very poor area. 80% of families in Genesee make less than 100,000 combined, and half of that make less than 50,000 combined. So when I decided I wanted to do homesteading, it was after a gentle nudge from the district's youth librarian. We've had some great conversations. She knew how much I liked to cook, and just really encouraged me to lean into my strengths that way. And that's kind of how homesteading came about. And it's not, none of it's difficult. Trust me when I say none of it's difficult. Too far. Okay, so why homesteading and why in libraries? We've all heard it, right? Libraries are not just books. We're not. We are community centers. We are third spaces. We are, one of the few remaining places where everybody is welcome. We don't exclude anyone for any reason. Libraries are the ones that are out there building skills. We're building communities, and homesteading just kind of naturally fit into that place. We are also one of the last areas that doesn't charge anything for you to come and visit us. You need a place to get warm, our doors are open. You need a cup of coffee, a lot of us have a little Keurig sitting out there. So we are then equitable for teaching these skills, and that's something else that is very important when trying to do new things and teach our patrons. Homesteading kind of encompasses a lot of different programming types. You can do workshops. Those were what I primarily focused on. We did, well, Chinese New Year is coming up, right? So we did dumplings. Last year, I think no, it was the year before I did dumplings. And we, I showed everybody how to make the fillings, and then I showed everybody how to fold them, and then I handed it over to them, and everybody got to practice making and folding their own dumplings. And then we cooked them and enjoyed them, and they were really yummy. Everybody had fun. So most of what I did was hands-on. And it's important to note that my library was 800 square feet. The room that I did everything in was not very large. It was actually our children's room. I could comfortably fit 8 people in there. I could squeeze in 10 to 12, and I've had to do that. But so workshops, so think on hands-on building sessions, right? Teaching somebody how to make bread or pasta or starting seeds. Your patrons get to leave with something tangible often, right? Especially if you're starting seeds. And they leave with a little more confidence. Demonstrations and tastings. I did one on vinegar. We couldn't, because vinegar takes months to, craft, we didn't get to really do anything hands-on with that, but I brought in the different types of vinegar that I had, showed them what a healthy mother looks like. They got to taste the different vinegars that I had made. And then the final program type is partnerships. I'm not sure if Nebraska has ag extensions like we do in New York and Pennsylvania.
Yes, we do. Yep. Nebraska Cooperative Extension does a lot of work with libraries. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are your partners. Reach out to them. I know Pennsylvania offers a Master Gardener series, and if any of my local librarians are on, there is one in Cottersport. Find them, use them, have them come in, and especially this time of year, teach how to start seeds, teach companion planning. All of this kind of ties right back into homesteading and starting it. I reached out to friends of mine, a farm around the corner from me that I had bought CSA from for years. I always leaned on her, hey, come talk to us about soil health and how to grow heirloom tomatoes in our climate, because we're in this weird little microclimate area where our growing season typically isn't long enough to grow heirlooms, yet they were doing it successfully year after year after year. There's a couple people around here that do soaps. I'm trying to get a hold of one right now to come teach how to make soap in my new library. All of these, when you're thinking homesteading, I guess I should have said that first. So when you're thinking homesteading, think of your grandparents and your great-grandparents and the conveniences that we have today, they didn't have. So homesteading kind of is a return to all of that, doing things from scratch again, starting fresh, starting over. Okay, so getting started. I've already started kind of talking about that, but find your people. Go to your local farmers markets, call your ag extension, call your co-ops, talk to your staff, talk to your patrons. I guarantee you somebody that you converse with weekly knows how to make sourdough. And it just takes one conversation, and you can tell when somebody's passionate about something and say, hey, would you mind coming and sharing your knowledge? That was probably how the homesteading series actually got started. I, again, talked to my farmer friend and got her to come in. I was friends with another woman who runs a poultry farm and a pig farm. And while most people want to raise chickens, she also raises quail. And if you're in the town limits, you might not be able to raise chickens, but there usually isn't a stipulation that where you can't raise quail, and they take up a lot of less room. They still provide great nutrition and a great source of protein. And you can harvest a quail 6 to 8 weeks, I think it is, instead of 20 for chickens. Don't quote me on that. So just
slightly smaller too. I mean, smaller in size or similar size?
quail are even the largest quail are much, much smaller than chickens are. You roughly need one quail per person for an adult if you're going to serve that as a meal. But they are easier to raise, easier to butcher. Years ago, I actually did a YouTube video on butchering quail. It still exists out there somewhere. That was kind of an interesting one. But start small. You don't have to plan an entire year's worth of homesteading series. Start with something super simple. Start with how to create your own sourdough starter. And I'm using that as an example. So I presented this in Arcel, and then I actually ended up joining their new mentorship program. And yeah, I was partnered with a woman in South Carolina, and I went to introduce myself, and she's like, oh, I already know you. I know all about you. I was at Arcel. I did your homesteading thing, and I have to tell you, I did one. We started with how to do your sourdough starter, and she's like, I can't tell you. It was standing room only. Like, it was one of my biggest programs, and that just makes me so happy to hear that, something just as simple as starting a starter drew everybody in. So, small successes are going to build momentum. Use what you already have. This was a big thing at Arcel when I started talking about this. A lot of libraries already have a knitting or a crocheting club that fits into homesteading. You're creating your own, mittens and sweaters and stuff like that. Those are homesteading skills. Some of us out here have seed libraries. Jump right off of
a lot of those in Nebraska too. A lot of things becoming big, yeah.
Yeah, jump right off of that into, figuring out great soil for, starting your seeds. If you have a library of things, get gardening tools for them. Find a sewing machine. All of these little things that you might already have and be doing can be put under that homesteading umbrella. And then plan wisely. You don't want to do a program about starting seeds in the fall. You could. There are some, winter vegetables that you do want to start super early when the snow is still on the ground, like it is here. But, do your seed planting in the spring. Do fermenting and canning during harvest season. Knitting and crocheting would be more, late fall, early winter. So if you're following the normal cycle of things, you're going to have more success when you start creating these programs. Okay, I know everybody is wondering the cost. And there's a lot of stuff you can do for free. If you already have a seed library, a bag of soil isn't going to cost all that much. You can take the cardboard egg cartons, and now you have seed starters. And what's a bag? I don't even know what a bag of soil costs anymore. I've been buying special tropical mix trying not to kill my plants lately, so I don't know what a bag of seed starter costs anymore. But let's say you spend $20 in soil and you cut your egg cartons in half. Well, for $20 now you can send 10 people home with seeds that they've started in the spring. You can do film screenings. Most educational and documentaries, I think, fall under fair use, so you don't have to have a swank license or any other type of licensing because they are considered educational and you are showing them in that aspect. Community swaps are another really good one. When I do my sourdough classes, I always make an extra batch of starter, I guess you could say, and that's something that I hand out to everybody. Mid-range, these are typically your paid presenters or your honorariums. I've been very lucky, and anybody that I have asked to come and host a program has always done it for free, even when I've asked to cover mileage for them or if they need certain supplies, things like that. Your workshop supplies typically fall in here, flowers, jars, seeds, herbs, that sort of thing. Starter kits for if you do a fermentation class. There's actually a couple different starter kits on Amazon that are pretty economical. And if you want to do a fermentation one, ask people to bring in a mason jar from home and just supply a fermentation lid. I think the last time I bought them, it was $15 for 12 lids and airlocks. They supplied your own jar, you've got a class for $12. Bigger investments, if you really work on your partnerships. I know one of the local communities here have a community garden. I do not know if that library partners with the community garden, but that would be a great partnership for them if they wanted to start a homesteading series. Things like canning or dehydrating equipment that would fit great into your library of things if you have one, but they are going to be larger investments. Induction burners or portable cooktops. I bought a 2-burner induction cooktop to do demonstrations, and that was $120. Beekeeping, composting, hydroponic growing setups, all of those are dreams, right? Like I would love to have all of that in my library, and maybe someday I'll be able to, work out some grants for that sort of thing. But you can easily scale a lot of homesteading ideas and demonstrations into that free and low cost range pretty easily.
Yeah, I was going to mention ways for those bigger things because that caught my attention, the hydroponic one, looking for grants for some of these more expensive things or even for the smaller ones. Here in Nebraska at the Library Commission, we do grants for our libraries, and we did just do one last year for a library to get one of those hydroponic gardens. If you got some good idea and good programming, there's lots of grants out there. Grants don't have to be a huge thing too, where, we need $50,000 to build something. No, you can apply for grants that are just for like $500 or something. You just got to look and see what your state, if your state library agency offers something, if some local organizations offer grants. foundations that you wouldn't think about related to libraries, just anything that's saying they want to be like community support, private foundations, or they always have philanthropic, like Dollar General does their literacy grants, and a lot of here in the Midwest, we have a lot of a couple of different railroads. Railroads are big here, and they have their their philanthropic side, and they will just do anything for any community that their railroad runs through. So just get a little creative, looking for places that don't scream libraries, but just scream money for something in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Locally, we have the Community Foundation for the Twin Tiers, and they're small grants. I think the most they give is $1,000, and it's not super time consuming to fill out an application for them. They actually funded my little free library before I left. So they're out there. If you're lucky enough to have businesses in your town, go and talk to them. In Genesee, we have 2 gas station / convenience stores, and they often helped with supplies at cost, or would donate items. The one year, one of them gave me like 20 gift certificates for free ice cream cones for summer reading. So you make your face known. Don't continually ask the same people for money, because then when they see you, they're going to be like, ugh, they're coming for more money. If you have a hardware store, which I'm assuming most people have some sort of hardware store nearby. If Genesee has one, I'm assuming most people have one. But they might be great to ask a bag of soil in the springtime when they start getting that stuff in. There's ways to keep your budgets low. And my contact information is at the end too. So if anybody needs help with that, please feel free to reach out to me and I will help you as best I can.
Yep. Oh, and I will mention, since I'm sure someone will ask, the slides will also be available afterwards with the recording. So so don't worry about trying to write all this stuff down.
Yeah.
So you'll have all this information later, along with Erica's contact info there at the end. Yeah.
Yep. And I have a QR code too on the very last slide too that goes to a Google Drive. So it's there.
So
it's available.
Get your phones ready to start clicking.
Yes. Challenges. Limited staff time. Small libraries, we don't always have hours upon hours to run intensive programs. Again, I was a solo librarian when I started this. I did it during my open hours. My patrons all knew that if I had to step away for a minute to go and check out a book for somebody, it was okay. They understood that. And I think the more your patrons come in and see how much you're trying to do with limited staff and limited time, they're definitely a lot more understanding. Budgets. I trust me, guys, I get it. My budget in Genesee was $45 for the year. Granted, that seems like a lot for some small libraries, I'm sure. But when half of that went to just keeping the lights on and paying people, when the Pennsylvania has its own requirements, like 12% of my budget must be spent on collections every year. Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. But I wish they funded libraries a lot better than they do without asking so much of them.
A lot of requirements, yeah.
Yeah, like we have to be open 35 hours a week. You need 7 hours on the weekends. The 12% on like there's all of these things that we're supposed to do. And the last dollar amount that they gave Genesee was about $10,000. Yet they required all of this to give us that.
And then since now you're actually your library's in New York now, it's different because
Yeah, my budget is almost twice what it was in Genesee. We are funded by a school tax levy. I don't worry so much about fundraising anymore. Grants are still super important, but there seems to be more grants available. Smaller, community-minded grants seem to be available for New York compared to Pennsylvania.
Every state is different, yeah.
Yes.
We don't have any of those rules here in Nebraska for what to be a library, about how many hours you have to be open or when. Anybody can open a library pretty much here.
I mean,
But there are rules if you want to get additional support from the Library Commission, of course. Yes, you have to have certain things. You have to, paid staff and certain, basic things. But yeah, every state is different, so yeah.
Yeah, and Pennsylvania is the same way. You don't have to accept money from the state. You can open, if you've got funding from someplace else, you don't have to be, part of the state and follow their rules and regulations. It's just most people do because we're Pennsylvania.
It's helpful, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Budgets. That's where we were. So again, I'm going to tell you, reach out to your, local extensions, your co-ops, find your small community grants, go to those local businesses, see what they can help. Community buy-in is extremely important because not everyone is going to immediately see homesteading as a library program. But I think when they realize that these programs are kind of connecting to community values, you're teaching self-reliance and sustainability, you're often going back to family traditions. I am still trying to find my abuela so she can come in and teach how to make tortillas because I don't want to have to do it. But they're out there. And then
the retired people who are home movement who used to do, like you were talking about at the beginning, this is something that your grandparents or parents, whatever, did, find those people to come in and share their experience and knowledge and history.
Yeah, absolutely. And then space limitations. If you don't have a kitchen, if you don't have a spot to put a garden, I totally get that. Again, Genesee was 800 square foot. I put a table with just enough room for me to move behind it, and then the rest were, chairs for people to sit in. It got tight some days, but it's doable. I promise you, you can do this in any size space. Get creative. Use crock pots in a meeting room. Seed libraries. If you have an old card catalog hanging about, that is a great storage for your seeds. Grab a couple outdoor planters for starting a garden. The town of Genesee has these memorial planter boxes, and I put bee balm in the one in front of the library. It's a native plant. It comes back every year, doesn't require a whole lot of effort, and was good for the bees. And we've got some bee farmers out here, so it was kind of natural for me to put bee balm in there. Use what you have. And then this is a mix of photos between classes that we've done, some of the things that I have made at home that I plan on teaching someday in a homesteading program. My favorite picture, can you guys see my mouse and where I'm kind of circling my mouse?
Yes, I do see it up there at the top center. Yeah.
Yes. So this is my favorite picture. And I'm kind of curious if anybody knows what it is.
Is that the sourdough starter?
Nope.
No.
This is actually something you don't want to see.
Okay. Anybody online? Anybody in the audience there? What do your guesses are about what that top center beige looking, foamy looking stuff? Was it something to do with fermenting?
It is.
It looks very foamy. Someone says ramen.
Not ramen. So this is actually a close-up picture of Kam yeast, K-A-H-M. Some people call it Kam yeast. And it's not harmful. It could make your ferments taste kind of but it's just one of those natural yeasty dudes that shows up from time to time. Very difficult to get rid of once you actually have it. But again, it's not harmful. It just might make your ferment taste a little more bitter. I actually have some growing on my fermented jalapenos in the refrigerator right now, and I don't know why they showed up all of a sudden.
Some people like that bitter flavor too.
Some people do, yes.
Like people who like the hoppier beers, which I do not, but people have their weird preferences.
Yes, yeah. That is actually a class I keep getting asked to do is beer and wine.
Oh yeah, people do a lot of making their own beer at home nowadays. Yeah.
Yes. I haven't quite figured out how to do that one, again, because of how long fermentation takes to change grape juice into wine and, wort into beer. And then, of course, I don't want to be providing alcohol to my patrons and then sending them back out on the street.
Yeah, there's that whole, is it legal? Yeah. Someone does have a question though, then, so you don't do any of your sessions as multi week things? It's always just a one shot?
For me, they've always just been one shots. Yes, okay. You absolutely can. I did do a class, this picture here, I did a class on making tortillas, and this could easily be put down into a multi-session workshop, because we talked about, God, I love this word, but I hate this word, nixtamalization, which is the process of taking corn, introducing pickling lime, which is found in every Walmart across the country, and cooking it and then turning it into hominy. So you can turn your hominy into grits. You can turn it into masa to make tortillas. So, I mean, that right there could be its own little session. And then turning that, fresh masa into tortillas could be another session.
Later, because that has to go through its process, right?
Which that actually takes less than 24 hours to change corn into hominy. But then you could do a class on pozole, which uses hominy, or you could do, enchiladas or quesadillas, like all of these things that would go back into your original making your tortillas. So yes, you definitely can make them long term.
Yeah, we do have a question, and I have the same question too. What's that one that looks like bacon or something wrapped up?
This one up here?
Yeah, that looks really good. It's making me hungry.
This is pancetta.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. I didn't want to say, okay.
Yes, yep. And a lot of people think they can't do, because this is a cured meat, essentially. Pancetta is one of the more easier ones. I do it in my refrigerator. I don't have a special chamber or anything like that. It just sits in my fridge and does its magic. And I usually take whole pork belly when I do it. And I think it's lasted a year and a half, and I think I only have one little piece left. My daughter is a huge carbonara fan, and while you're supposed to use guanciale, pancetta works just as well. So we tend to go through a lot of it.
I will have to look into that. Yes, I make carbonara. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Anyway.
Any other picks or questions?
Someone does want to know, you might if you have a list of all the programs and subjects that you've done. I mean, someone's looking for ideas, and they call theirs, which is interesting because you said homesteading at your library, and the fact that some people don't think homesteading is something libraries should do, or that it's very confusing or whatever. This person calls theirs their simple living group.
Yep.
So,
yep, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
There can be some issues with calling it homesteading sometimes, because I think there's often a disconnect. People think that homesteading is, raising chickens and raising cows and raising pigs and,
living off the grid, totally kind of.
Right. And we're making it, smaller and more accessible for everybody to learn and do, not this great big huge thing.
Yeah. Here in Nebraska, we actually have the Homestead National Monument.
Oh, okay.
Which is this caught my attention because of that, and it's just south of Lincoln here, and it's the location of the first homestead when the Homestead Act in 1862 was written, and people came out here to start getting property and the first acres that were claimed under the Homestead Act, and there was a monument for it. And it does. Then they do a lot of activities. Not something people think here in Nebraska. Reach out to the Homestead National Monument, see if they want to do anything with your library. But it's got a lot of these same kind of activities and things that you're talking about. But it's also about the history of homesteading. And that's like claiming land type concept, which is definitely not what you're doing. So, want to explain to people, we're just talking about the things that you can do. Yes. Yeah. And like I said, this person called it their simple living.
Yes. Yep.
But the question is, do you have a list somewhere of all the programs or topics that you've done?
I do. And if you follow this QR code, there is a link to the slides, a link to resources, books that you can buy for your library, a list of programming ideas. It's all there. If anybody does a cook the book type of program, that's a really easy one to turn into a homesteading program. You can take your recipes. Let's say it has something that uses tortillas. You can turn that into homesteading by making the tortillas first and then cooking your recipe out of your book. If you have a cookbook club.
Oh, someone also mentions they have, and I've heard of other libraries doing this too. They specifically, doing the cooking clubs or cook something from a cookbook focused on spices specifically. So not just this particular thing we're going to make or this recipe, but we're going to focus on things you can do with this particular spice, like a whole thing about paprika or basil or whatever. So focusing it on that, and that, the homesteading part of that could be the growing of that particular herb.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information on growing, how spices are grown, the different varieties, like nutmeg and mace. They are actually the same plant, and mace is the flower portion that forms over the nutmeg. So it's a more floral version of nutmeg. It's also super expensive. Yeah. But there's vanilla pods or orchids. I never knew that they were orchids.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I knew saffron is flower stamens and they have to be hand harvested, and that's why that's so expensive.
Yes.
But vanilla beans actually are from orchid plants.
Those are also very expensive now too.
Yes, they are. Any other questions? I don't see a question.
The way it's set up, and that's fine. That's why I've got it open here. Yeah. So everybody, please definitely, we'll keep this QR code up here. So grab that. But you will also have a link to these slides when the recording is available as well too. So if you don't grab it now. Someone does have a question. It's related to your library, not necessarily to homesteading. They're curious about the name of your library, because you're not just like so-and-so public library or free library. It's the Literary and Historical Society Free Library.
Yes, the Belmont. It's so if you ask one person, they'll tell you it's the Belmont Free Library. If you ask somebody else, it's the Free Library of the Belmont Literary and Historical Society. And then I think the state calls us Belmont Literary and Historical Society Free Library. But so the library that I'm currently the director in was started in, and I always mess up the date, so I apologize ahead of time. It was started in 1885 by a group of women.
Many of our libraries are women reading groups, women book groups. Yep.
Yes, and that's actually how it started. There was a membership, and you had to pay dues. And then in 1894, the first cornerstone for the building that I'm still in today was laid, and it was finished several years later and actually called Ward Hall. And then we got our charter with New York sometime in the early 1900s, and it eventually became the Belmont Literary and Historical Society Free Library. The Historical Society part is something that I would like to expand on someday. We do have a lot of historical documents in there, a lot of old pictures. Some of my favorite things that I have come across, I have a first edition Tarzan in my library.
Wow.
Yeah,
I came across how those things end up there. Yeah.
Oh, it made my heart pound. My husband, that's one of his favorite stories. And I showed it to him, and he's like, do you know how much that is worth? I'm like, please don't tell me, because I would want to put it under lock and key somewhere. It doesn't circulate anymore, thankfully. Right. But we have quite a few of those, and I'm struggling between, okay, do I put these under glass and keep them and replace them with newer versions for people to read, or do I continue to let some of these older ones go out? Like I have, I don't think they're first edition Alice Through the Looking Glass, but they're might be the second edition, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. I think a lot of it might depend on their condition, but also the rarity. Do you want someone, not to say anything, like your husband to say, oh, this is worth a lot of money, I'm going to check it out and never return it, and then it gets, yeah.
We actually,
that's an issue that libraries deal with, yes.
Yeah, we actually almost had that issue with a Godzilla children's book. Really? I don't understand what was so exciting or special. It was just a kind of like Clifford the Big Red Dog, those kind of paperback children's books that get ruined really easily. That's what it looked like, but it was Godzilla, and it was an old one, and it's selling for like $60 on eBay. And I had another library borrow it, and that director called and said, hey, this person wants to know if they can keep this book. They kind of want to, give you the $6 that you have it listed for in the OPAC. And
no, the libraries don't sell books.
Me as weird, so I looked into it, and I'm like, oh, that's why they don't want to return the book. And we did finally get it back, thankfully. But yeah, it's
know which ones they're gonna. Yeah, we do have some other questions that have come in here now, so let's get to this here. Someone wants to know about sourdough. That sourdough is such a process. How do you teach that in one session?
I go through every little bit and piece. Starting the starter is more of a discussion. I mean, yeah, you can put flour and water and hand it off to somebody and says, here's your starter. And I do that. And then we, talk about what you have to do when you leave in order to keep it going and make it sourdough. But then I have, flour and water and salt all pre-measured. I show them how to mix it. And then I'll set that one aside and pull out a loaf that is ready for shaping. And I will shape it and put it in a banneton and say, okay, now you need to let this rise again. And when that's done rising, it looks like this one. And I pull out a third loaf and I say, this is how we're going to bake it. And then it bakes while I go through, go back to that original shaggy mess of flour and water in the bowl and show them how to do stretch and folds or slap and folds or whatever method you choose to knead your sourdough. So it's not linear at that point. It's a little, disjointed, but I haven't had anybody complain that it is disjointed. They kind of like seeing the process, even though we might have to go back to the beginning then back to the end.
So it's like those cooking shows where you're going to do prep work. You're going to have your thing at each stage. So you're going to have like, I don't know how many, 5 different sourdough loaves at different stages to show this is now, in so much time, now you're going to be at this stage and you'll do this. The cooking shows, they put the pan lasagna in the oven and pull out a cooked one immediately because it's already been pre-set up. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, just
and I try to always bring a loaf that I had baked the day before so that we can, cut into it and eat it too, because you don't want to take a loaf of bread from the oven and immediately cut into it when it's warm. It actually makes your bread tougher and more gummy. So always let your bread cool for 2 hours before you eat it. If you can. It's very, very difficult to do that some days.
The smell is just there.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Someone wants to know also, do you travel and present these programs in other libraries, or are you just doing it at your own?
I just started going to other libraries to do it. My first one is next month. I'm going to Almond, New York to present for one of my fellow STLS libraries. And we're doing sourdough.
Okay, cool. So she'll travel in her area, probably not like here to Nebraska or anything. No.
Probably not to Nebraska unless you really want to shell out airfare, and hotel and whatnot. And I will be honest, I've only driven through Nebraska. And the last time I drove through Nebraska, we stopped at a Wendy's and I ended up getting food poisoning.
Oh my gosh. That's not us. You should have stopped at like the local bar instead in some tall little town. You would have done much better.
Probably should have.
That's a Wendy's. Runza. Yes, someone from down there. Runza. Did you stop at Runza? That's the thing you should have done.
No, I didn't know about Runza. I know about it now, but I did not when I had driven through Nebraska.
Runza's, for those of you not from Nebraska, Runza's make these, they're called bieroks, to bread stuffed with ground beef, meat, and I know it sounds like cabbage and onion, but it's really good. Yes, and there's a chain of restaurants here in the Midwest that does them called Runza's. That would be a good idea actually for people make them at home. Yeah. I know a lot of people do. For definitely one of these homesteading things or these simple living is make your own Runza's. Yeah.
And you guys have, I think it's a neighboring state that does something very, very similar, but it's called something different.
There's different names for the actual thing. Yeah, the actual food dish.
Bread thing. Yeah.
But the key is that it's a dough that's very poofy kind of dough, like a roll, like a soft roll, and then having meat and cabbage mixed together for the filling, and then with other spices and flavors and things too that go into it. That depending, add cheese, mushrooms, whatever you like to jazz it up. Yeah. But that would be a good idea to do indeed. Mm-hmm. All right. Any other questions or comments or anything anybody else, and you all doing at your library, anything like this, or ideas that you may have? Type into the questions section there. I got the QR code off there on my phone. I did it, and it does have a book list. The slides are there, and program ideas is a whole document there. So yes, you'll definitely find all the list of ideas for if you're looking for doing things at your library.
And that list runs from, super simple things like sourdough right on through to, I think I have beekeeping on there and composting and some of the things that are a lot more complex.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So start easy and then work up to the more complex ones.
Yeah.
Find someone who's an expert to work on some of those. Maybe you don't have to learn how to do all of these things.
No, you definitely don't. That's kind of how I got started. I love to learn things, and I have ADHD that was undiagnosed for very, very long time. So learning new projects that would fall under homesteading were kind of my jam and my nice little dopamine hit. Didn't always turn out so great. And I did it because for years we were a single income family. I learned, when to buy things when they were in season, and I learned how to can them so that I would have them the rest of the year and cut my costs down. Like I just bought 50 pounds of citrus fruit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because it's citrus season and they're going to be cheapest right now. So if I want things like marmalade and, Meyer lemon curd, it's cheaper to buy them now.
Now, yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Let's see, someone just have a comment here that I love. Oh, cool. Oh, okay. This is our North Platte Public Library here in Nebraska. They have a seed library, and last spring/summer we had a gardening series that our local horticulturist came with our master gardeners in the area. Yep.
Nice.
Exactly. And then this spring and summer, they're going to have a local poultry expert presenting a series on raising chickens.
Perfect.
We do have to mentioning whether that's legal or not. We obviously out in more rural areas, of course, they would have it. But here and even in Lincoln, it is legal to have chickens. I know many people that do raise them in their backyards. I don't know. And interestingly, most of them seem to talk about the eggs aspect, not butchering the chickens. But it depends on which way you're going with it and your reason for having them.
Yes. I think most people do raise chickens for eggs. And if you have a bunch of people that are doing that, you can do a class on how to water glass your eggs for longer storage. How to successfully freeze eggs for baking or scrambled eggs or something like that, because
you're going to have
summertime, yeah. But when it comes to actually butchering chickens, as somebody who's done it a handful of times, it is not fun. I don't enjoy it. I would rather butcher quail than chickens. I would rather butcher a deer than chickens. I think it's more of the smell and how difficult it can be to get all of the feathers off. And let's face it, a chicken without chicken skin is just kind of sad and whatnot. So it takes a little bit.
It's a little more than some people can do. Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I never had a chicken plucker, so I couldn't just throw it into the tub with those fingery things to help pull them all out. I was, dunking it in the water and trying to pull them out.
Sounds like a long process, yes.
Yeah. It's why you'll see people that do it often. They have friends and family come over. Usually it's, one family that'll raise all of the chickens for everybody, and then everybody gets together and they kind of do like this assembly line thing to get all of the chickens processed quickly.
Makes sense, yeah. Spread out the work, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, I don't see any, we're almost up to the top of the hour again. I don't see any other different questions coming in, so I think maybe we'll work on wrapping up for today.
Okay.
If you do have any questions, still a few more minutes here. I've got to do my wrap up and close things out here. So do type things in if you think of anything else. But thank you so much, Erica. This was great information and resources. I feel we hopefully have a lot more libraries doing this and expanding off of their seed libraries or their cooking clubs. There's so many other things we can do. And I think people are getting more used to libraries doing all these different things, because so many of us are doing just anything we could do that would be something interactive and training and teaching. It's definitely becoming more common, and hopefully just more of an obvious thing that, of course, the library is going to do that. Of course, the library can try and do that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so grab your QR code before I switch off of this, but we will have the slides available for you. I do process the recording through goes to GoToWebinar and then up onto our YouTube channel. By the end of the day tomorrow, you at the latest, you'll all have a link to the recording and the slides available to you. So I am gonna pull presenter control back to my screen here, over to my screen. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you so much, Erica, for joining us and sharing all about this. There's some fun things to do. I may even do some of this stuff myself at home, just because I have those tips and everything.
There you go. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Maybe try pancetta. That's my first thing. All right. So thank you everybody for being here. What did I do? Done the thing. There we go. All right. So as I said, the show is recorded. If you use whatever is your search engine of choice and type in NCompass Live, the name of our show, you'll find our main show page and our archive page as well. It's a link underneath our upcoming shows here. You can go there. Most recent shows are at the top of the page. So today's will be up there, like I said, by the end of the day tomorrow. Someone says, thank you to you, Erica. Excited to begin new classes. Nice.
You are welcome.
Everyone who attended today's show and registered for today's show, even if you couldn't be here live, will get an email from me letting you know when the recording's ready. We also posted out, we have a mailing list here for Nebraska libraries that I push it out onto as well. And we do have social media, as you saw me clicking there accidentally. We have a Facebook page for NCompass Live. So if you like to use Facebook, give us a like. We post reminders as your reminder to log into today's show. We do meet our presenters, and then when the recordings are available, there's one from last week, I post up on here as well. I use the hashtag NCompLive, so you can look for that anywhere. Also, we have a Facebook page for NCompass Live, but we also use the Library Commission's Instagram account to post reminders about the show as well. So if you watch, go to the Nebraska Library Commission and their Instagram, you also see notices about the show. While we're here on the archive page, there is a search feature. If you want to do a search and see if we've done a show on a topic you might be interested in, you can search the full show archives or just the most recent 12 months. If you want something just very current, that is because this is our full show archives, going back to when NCompass Live first premiered. And I'm not going to scroll all the way down. As you can see, this is a huge list. But NCompass Live first premiered in January 2009. So this is our 18th year of doing the show, and that's crazy to say out loud, but we have all of our show archives here. So just do pay attention to the original broadcast date when you watch anything, watch any of our shows. Some things we find to watch good, useful information, still stand the test of time, but some things will become old and outdated. Resources may have changed drastically, might not exist anymore. Links might be broken. People work in different places than when they presented for us, et cetera, et cetera. So just pay attention to that original broadcast date if you do watch any of our really old shows. But this is something libraries do. You mentioned it, Erica, with the old first edition books that you have. We keep things for historical purposes. And as long as we have somewhere to host all of our show archives, which right now is the Library Commission's YouTube channel, we will keep all of our recordings up there. All right, so that wraps it up for today's show. Next week, I've got our February dates up here, and I'm getting some March dates booked as well, so keep an eye on our schedule as I get those filled in. Next week, we're going to be talking about literacy, empowering families through literacy. This is a Nebraska initiative through the Department of Education, family literacy. So if you're interested in that here in Nebraska, things that you can do with that, or just in your own state, please do sign up for that show and any other upcoming shows we have. And one last thing I want to mention is, and I'm going to pop over here, I should have this open first, our Big Talk from Small Libraries online conference. This is a conference that we do here through the Library Commission annually. It's our 15th annual conference this year. It's always the last Friday in February, and it is co-sponsored by the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. And this is all of our presenters are from libraries with an population served, or if you're academic, full-time enrollment of 10,000 or less. So just the littlest libraries doing the presentations, and it is coming up the end of February, February 27th. You can register now. The full schedule is available. So if you want to see who is presenting and what the topics are going to be, we have our full schedule up, and information about our speakers, and registration is open. So please do sign up for Big Talk from Small Libraries coming up at the end of the month, Friday, February 27th. The entire day is recorded, so if you can't spend the whole day or you miss some of them, you will be able to come back and watch recordings afterwards. I do break the full day up into individual recordings for each session. So you will be able to watch that later. So sign up for Big Talk, sign up for our next NCompass Live, which I've now gone off. Here's my thing for this. There we go. And all right, and another thank you for presenting and sharing your ideas. All right, so thank you everybody for being here, and hopefully we'll see you all on a future episode of NCompass Live. Bye-bye.